Welcome everyone. Last week I had the amazing chance to play World Chess Champion Vishy Anand during his Checkmate Covid Charity Simul. So Vishy started with knight f3. I went d5, putting my pawn in the center, attacking the center. He immediately counterattacks and is trying to undermine my center. And so I move c6. I cannot take this free pawn because then he can attack in the center, put pressure on my pawn. I can't actually defend this pawn because then he will make moves like this, trying to undermine my defense. And if I try to defend it this way, I lose a rook. So there's no way to defend that pawn, and I'm losing the center. So instead I reinforce my position with this move. Now he moves here to get his bishop out. I move my bishop out because eventually I want to move this pawn, and I don't want this bishop to be trapped behind it, so I get it outside into a good position. But moving this bishop left this pawn vulnerable, so Vishy immediately counters and attacks me. I'm under so much pressure, just 3 moves into the game. It's insane. So I'm in trouble. This weak pawn is being attacked, and this pawn is being attacked twice. 1, 2. So I'm in danger of losing a pawn on the 3rd move and losing the game immediately. I have to come up with something. So I move the queen here. And you're probably wondering, wait a second, isn't this pawn attacked twice now? Can't he just take it with this pawn? You know, it's only defended by my 1 pawn. But if he tries taking it, and I take back, and he tries taking it with the queen winning a pawn, I'm going to take his bishop with check. So I found this clever trick to save myself, but he puts more pressure on the pawn, so I defend it, creating a really solid structure. I call this the party hat. All my pawns are defended, and now we're going to have an awesome party with this really solid structure, because it's really hard to break when all these pawns defend each other. So he moves into the center with this pawn, getting his bishop out. And now, for you Netflix fans, this is the Queen's Gambit structure. So this game is transposed into a Queen's Gambit. I move my next piece out. I'm trying to control this square to make sure he can't push his pawn further and break my position down. He develops his bishop, and now I make a very subtle move. But as you can see by this green star, that this is the best move. And you're probably wondering, why is this pawn move so important? So I realized that this bishop is my best piece. It's cutting across his entire position like a dangerous sniper. And I don't want his knight to come in. If I don't do anything, his knight will come in, and this bishop can't really go anywhere and not be taken. So I have to move it back, and then his knight will take it, and I just lost my amazing sniper for this terrible knight. So I don't want that to happen, so I created a bunker for my bishop, for my sniper to hide in, so it always is influencing the board. But now he moves his rook out, and again, I'm being threatened with immediate destruction. If I don't do anything, he takes this pawn, I take, and now he takes this pawn and attacks my queen and can get his knight in. So if I don't do anything, I'm gonna lose. So like every move I have to just calculate and think really deeply, and it just is wearing me down. So I sidestep and contest his queen. He brings his knight forward. I decide to get rid of his queen because queens are dangerous. He's putting lots of pressure on me. And I thought, look, he has double pawns, you know, just like Beth Harmon created double pawns against Benny. And that's the problem. His double pawns aren't actually weak, and they're influencing the center more directly. So maybe not the best idea, and he has an open line, but computer says it's okay. I basically played 10 moves and got an even position against the world champion as black, so I'll take it. I move my bishop out, get my other pieces out. He influences the center more with his pawn. I bring my knight out. He takes it. I take it with the king because it immediately connects my rooks. With no queens on the board, I didn't really feel like I needed the castle. It would have been slightly more accurate to take with the knight according to the computer, but I think this is fine. And if I had taken with the knight, it would have been easier for him to push the pawn down my throat. He gets his bishop out. I move my rook, line up with his king, eventually trying to push some pawns, create some openings. He sidesteps. Now I'm just kind of running out of ideas. If I move this pawn, this makes this pawn weak. He can take, and now his bishop comes in, lining up with my king and my rook, and then I lose a bishop. I lose a rook for a bishop, which is immediate death against the world champion. So just so much to calculate every step, every move. Similarly, I can't push this pawn for the same reason. So I just feel like I don't have too much play. So my idea is to try to break open his structure, a6, b5, and gain some space that way. But this creates a hole in my position. So now his knight is coming in to fork me. And if I don't do anything, his knight's going to come in. And now I lose my rook. So just every move is threatening death. So I sidestep my rook and I defend this pawn in case the knight comes here to attack that pawn. And then he takes further advantage of this opening by bringing his bishop. So I try to glue in this hole to contest the bishop. He brings his knight to a great spot, checking me, attacking my weak pawn. I move back. He takes. Now he's left with a good knight here. Now he pushes my bishop back. He's pushing all my pieces back. But, we've reached 20 moves. He still only has a very slight advantage. My bishop is very dangerous. My position is solid. Things are still okay. Now he is going h4. And now, if I'm not careful, he could go here, take, and all my pieces are dying. Just every move is threatening something. And so I counter this by going here to block that up, but this was a mistake. Wasn't game ending or anything, he still only has a slight advantage, but it would have been a little better if I just move the knight here, contest his better knight. And now if he tries to do that, I can take here, mess up his pawns, and I can contest my rook with his rook, and he doesn't actually have an opening. When I calculated it, I just thought that, oh, it's bad that his rook can attack my bishop. So, but I should have calculated that a little more clearly and saw that my rook can get into the game as well. But I move here, and now this gives him more space. Pushes my knight back. He takes it, gets his rook open. Now I have to defend this weakness because at any second he can push here and attack this pawn, and I can't defend it like this because that would be blocking my bishop in. That's the equivalent of playing down a piece to gain some more space. Now I take here, thinking that these pawns are split and bad, but there's no way for me to take advantage of these. Again, same mistake as back in that game in the clip. So he plays e4, gaining more space now, so I try to counterattack this weak pawn, but he just defends with his king, moving forward. As you can see, his advantage is growing. So I'm trying to move up and attack this way. He lines up his rook with my king, and I've been ground down to 1 minute. I see all these threats of my king opening up with this rook and me getting murdered, so I quickly sidestep, but as you can see, that was a bad move. The position I'd fought back to being equal, but now just putting my king in the corner here gives him a big advantage. My king needs to fight, not just be a coward and stay in the back. So now he reroutes his bishop to attack this weakness. I try to put pressure here. He just calmly defends it. And this is the position where I just felt completely out of air. I've just been strangled to having all my pieces in the last 3 ranks of the board. I just have no good moves. Every pawn move I make just loses a pawn immediately. I could maybe move the rook up, but then he can just move it. pawn, keep harassing me. I just don't have any good moves left. I have a minute left. I'm calculating that no move is possible. All the moves lose something. I just wanted to scream. I just feel like there's a hand on my neck choking the life out of me. So I make a move that's a gasp for air. And as you can see, this was like a big inaccuracy. Really my only inaccuracy for 30 moves. Like like I'm proud that I didn't make any big mistakes until 30 moves in against the world champ. So, but this is a mistake. I completely miscalculated. My idea was that with this move, I'm putting pressure on his structure and I have more space. And you know, if he takes me this way, then this pawn will be on its own. So I thought this would be good. Um, but he can take en passant. Basically, if you move a pawn twice and they're up next to each other, the special rule, you can take it this way. And I saw all this, but I thought, you know, this is still fine. I can just keep undermining his center in the next turn, but I missed this move. Immediately, the rook comes in to attack my bishop, and now my bishop has no good place to retreat. It's really awkward, starved out of moves, so now it's messing up the coordination with my rooks. So now his rook gets in, and he is the only one that has control of this open file. So I bring my bishop back, trying to trade off the rooks, but now his other rook gets in. And so I'm slow. Now I'm trying to guard this pawn because I'm afraid his rook will come in and come over this way to attack this pawn here. So I move here, but his rook comes down this way. And now he's putting pressure on my pawns, he's putting pressure on my bishop. If I move this rook, then he can slide in this way. So I tried to move the king here, but this loses immediately. My king is overworked, trying to guard two pieces, so he can just take this. I have to take it back, and then he can scoop up my bishop from behind. Now I lost a crucial center pawn. His rook is in my position, harassing me. Now he's threatening to take even more pawns with this check. So I try to block him off, but now it's a king and pawn endgame where I'm down a pawn and all of his pawns are advanced. So, and his double pawns, which I thought would be a weakness, is just like two pawns stopping all three of mine from making any progress. I can't push here. Even if I push here and escape the blockade, this pawn is in my way, so I can't do anything. I try to break down his pawns to create a pass pawn, but he can just stop it immediately. And now I can't stop these pawns from promoting. He gets some queens, and the game is over. I truly enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Thank you guys so much for watching.